Today is talking season for college football. College football is mine. The MFers.
It's ours.
No.
It's ours.
Hey, some will say it's not an effing game. It's what you're hearing. And what we're going to hear today is down in Frisco, Texas, the Big 12 Media Days. So knock, knock, open up the door, Yormark. It's real. Nonstop pop from stainless steel. Who will be riding in with some big guns? Will it be Texas Tech? Could be the storyline of the Big 12 Media Days. So go hard. Get busy with it, Scott and Rich Rod. You're new in the league. But I got a good heart, and I love the game. MF Wonder, if he did it, it's all the same.
Was that was impressive. Hey. That was something.
Damn
what
right, I'll do it again. Because I'm so light, I gots to win. But who will win the Big 12? Will it be Kansas State or Arizona State? I do wonder, though, what is the national storyline of the Big 12?
Can they get more than one team into the college football playoff? Can they establish themselves as a power? I don't think the Big 12 will ever be able to be a power broker in college football. I don't think they'll ever be able to say, hey, Big 10 and SEC, we're making the decisions now. Mm-hmm. But I do think that if they are consistently having 2 or 3 teams in the college football playoff year in and year out and can have brands like Kansas State and Texas Tech and BYU establish themselves as, hey, we are actual national championship contenders, they could be in the fold of this Super League, essentially. I don't think it's out of the question. Mm-hmm. I think if you were betting right now, more likely the Big 12 is on the outside looking in when it comes to whatever Super League or trying to stay as a league or trying to compete amongst the SEC and the Big 10. But these next couple of years are the biggest years maybe in the Big 12 conference, because it just comes down to, can you be good enough and can you be competitive enough to survive and have the respect of college football that you are a national conference?
Isn't it something like the Big 12 begins today? I think the major storyline is Texas Tech. What Texas Tech is trying to accomplish. And it's not Deion.
Yeah. That's good.
Deion's going to break bread with the enemy. No matter how many cats he's going to break bread with, I'll break you. Sending me. Will they eclipse their win total in year number 3? But I think Texas Tech is the storyline of the Big 12 of trying to figure out exactly what Joey McGuire is doing.
Mm-hmm. Modern day SMU, and I mean that as a compliment.
Yeah. And if it will work.
But if you're the Big 12, you have to be so happy with the last probably 12 months in terms of what teams across the country are investing into their athletic departments, right? Like BYU has this NIL war chest, and they are in your conference, and they are willing to spend whatever the hell they need to spend in order to be good, not just at football, but at basketball.
Quarterback.
Texas Tech is a part of that as well, where they've gone in and they've heavily invested, not just in football, but also softball as well. And so you have...
I think they know I think the Big 12 is smart. They know they're a basketball conference that plays some competitive football.
But they've done a good job of adding like these previously non-Power 5 teams. Like, I think Cincinnati was an incredible addition to their conference. I think UCF has shown UCF has shown under Scott Frost in that 1 year that they can compete, on a national level in college football.
Different conference.
Well,
they were doing work in the AAC.
But
last year, first year in the Big 12, Gus Malzahn and that crew goes 6-7.
But I do,
and I think, by the way, I think Central Florida will be under their win total.
I do think, though, that you have added the best non-Power 5 teams that you've had. You could have added to your conference while you have Power 5 teams that have war chests.
The only thing, so I like, if did you like the candy now and later?
Remember that?
Remember that?
No, I don't know that.
So it was a hard rock candy.
Okay.
It was miserable for dentist offices.
Okay.
So if you look at the ACC and the Big 12, what would you rather have now compared to later?
Ooh, I mean,
but not good and plenty.
Well played.
I always thought they were cousins.
I was at Quick Trip the other day. I was looking at the candy aisle just because it was near the checkout.
It's
still there.
I think,
but it's like little pieces now. It's not like a quarter.
I think that if you're
inflation,
the ACC, if you're the Big 12, you have to look at now as your ability to be relevant later. You have to take what, like, you have to,
like, who would you rather be now?
The Big 12. Oh, the Big 12.
Okay.
1,000,000%. And if I'm the Big 12, though, I'm kind of kicking myself in a way that
You didn't let
SMU
Nebraska and Oklahoma play every year
No,
because that's where this all started.
no. I'm kind of kicking myself a little bit because of SMU is in the ACC, and SMU is one of those teams that we talk about that have that NIL war chest that they're willing to go and spend. And I mean, they made the college football playoff last year, right? Like, I'd be kicking myself being like, how did we not get a Texas school into this basically Texas conference that would boost our reputation?
See, I think now I would take the ACC.
Really?
I mean, look at, you have Clemson this year.
Okay.
I'm talking now, and we are talking in 2025.
Sure.
Now, what SMU is doing, what Miami might do, Florida State might be back.
Mhm.
We have Belichick with North Carolina. But later, I would take the Big 12 because you are probably a couple of years away from the ACC getting turned upside down,
Yes.
where the Florida State to the Big 10 is a real deal.
I think, though.
So right now, in football, just in football,
Yeah.
I would take the ACC. Later, I would take the stability of the Big 12.
I would rather take the Big 12 right now, just because I think that Arizona State in football, yes. I think that Arizona State and Iowa State and BYU all this year are just going to be good. And
They have a national championship team, though, because that's how we're determining
ACC, Clemson.
Yeah, no, like I'm saying the Big 12, in your opinion, do they have a national championship team this year?
No, not this year. But I do think they have 3 teams that could end up making the college football playoff, maybe even 4. And I think that, I mean, I don't really know the middle and back halves of those conference well enough to tell you that, hey, the Big 12 is in a much better spot than the ACC. But if we're going historically, like, they are in a better spot in terms of the middle and the bottom of that conference overall. I do think that both of the conferences over the last couple of months, or 12 months rather, have done a really good job of making themselves relevant heading into this year. But I think that the stability, without a doubt, more so is held with the Big 12 than it is with the ACC.
The ACC is what happened last week with the ACC. And if you can get out and how much it would cost you or not cost you, I still think we'll have in the future, instead of more conference realignment, we may have more relegation.
Sure.
But if there's one team, that is not wearing the gold helmets from South Bend, Florida State controls the future of any movement in college athletics.
Well, that 2030 line, where in 2030,
2027
is when it starts, when the buyout gets lower. That year is so important because you're right. If Florida State decides to go to the SEC,
no.
Or
no. You better talk to your friends at the Lincoln Airport and say, hey, can you guys get direct flights to Tallahassee? I don't think the Big Ten would allow Florida State to go to the SEC. And now you got to remember, would Florida allow Florida State to join them in their own conference?
That is exactly where I was going. And I was also thinking, what's the counter move too? Because if the Big Ten thinks that they can get Notre Dame into their conference and somehow coax them out of their very, nice contract with NBC and basically allowing themselves to control their own destiny in the college football playoff, if they think that they can do that, I don't know if they necessarily have to go all in on getting Florida State, but I don't.
Oh, you think Notre Dame to the Big Ten?
I'm saying that if
I think Notre Dame is perfectly fine with their current arrangement until there's collusion in college athletics that block the door for Notre Dame. I wouldn't move off of what they're doing unless you're colluded again.
Well, that's the thing. Like, that's my point. If the Big Ten thinks that they can somehow get Notre Dame,
I don't think the Big Ten needs Notre Dame.
If Florida State goes to the SEC, the Big Ten
I don't think Florida State will go to the SEC.
Yeah,
I think Florida State.
Would be God. I would.
Didn't the Big Ten say we're going from coast to coast, from land to land, the land of the free, from the north to the south? We need to expand the map commercial.
I hate it.
So let's go to Florida and let's go into SEC territory.
It's just because I really haven't had a problem with the California teams being in the Big Ten, because that was the path that we were going on. Like the Pac-12 had made bad decisions, and the Big Ten needed to do what they had to do in order to instill their future. And so I was just like, all right, there's a Western wing of the Big Ten. Like it makes sense in a little bit of a way. Like you have those teams play each other, and then you try and schedule the travel as best as you can. Florida State is just so random.
Yeah, but geography doesn't matter anymore. That's why, like nowadays, I could make a case that Gonzaga fits perfectly in the Big East. Geography is out the window. Geography is out the window. We don't have regional conferences anymore. We have national conferences, and that's what the Big Ten wants to be. But with all that said, the Big Ten will do nothing if the TV partners don't get in bed with them and say, you're adding that team, you're adding that team, here's more money. Because there's nobody that in the current state of financial athletics is going to say, oh, okay, well, we'll just let them in. We don't get any extra, or we have to take a pay cut, or now we have to share more money. If TV doesn't say sign off on it, then it won't happen. But I could see more of a scenario where a Florida State goes to the Big Ten and a Clemson goes to the SEC.
I think
instead of vice versa, which in speaking on geography, you'd be like, okay, at least that kind of makes sense because Clemson, South Carolina is a little bit closer.
It's like, but they're still both in the South. Like that's just what gets me a little bit is like, I like that there are 4 teams in relatively the same area of the country that are in the conference, right? Like there's still a little bit of that regionality, even though it's a fugazi. There's still a little bit of that like regionality within a conference, which I'm fine with.
We're NFL light. They don't. We look at
name it something different.
Look at the
Big
divisions.
Ten. Like just name it something different at that point.
No, it's always going to be the Big Ten.
Just have a different name
teams.
for it. It's just so weird. Just so weird to me.
College athletics is weird.
I know.
Also, how about this weirdness? So this upcoming weekend in Atlanta is a banger of a weekend. I got the Major League Baseball draft. Kate Anderson, LSU, to the Washington Nationals, who just fired their GM and their manager. But it has happened before. You have that going on. You have All-Star Weekend for baseball. You have the Home Run Derby with Pat McAfee playing the role of Chris Berman on Monday night. Then you have the All-Star Game. You also have Beyonce is in concert in Atlanta.
God.
And then I believe the WWE is in Atlanta Saturday and Sunday.
For Evolution?
But you know what will be bigger than all of those? And this is why we live in a glorious part of the world where college football is king. You know what also is next week in Atlanta?
Next week in Atlanta? No, I don't.
SEC Media Days is going on at the same time as the Major League Baseball All-Star Game. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is SEC Media Days.
Oh, my God.
Atlanta's the place to be. A lot of people say, well, the players play.
This is what I was
ride
always
every
told.
day. A great song, by the way, Luda. Great music in Atlanta. So the ATL is going to be bumping this weekend. That's what the kids tell me is what I should say. It's
going to be steezy.
But the SEC Media Days are bigger than all of those.
Yeah, they are.
I love college football. Let's go.
Because the league, the fact that the league meeting got as much run as it did, and it was just like kind of just individual interviews and like source of like under the table type stuff, and the fact that we talked about their league meetings for a whole week essentially,
that's the SEC
and
propaganda
everything that came out.
They have their own network.
It's crazy, and so now it's the fact that, by the way, it has to be a 4-day event is wild to me. I mean, I understand why they do it. I think it's so smart. It's 4
Make it 5 days.
You take up the entire sport.
I think the logistics also have stretched it to 4.
Oh yeah,
like even the Big Ten trying to squeeze. The Big Ten added a day. It's logistically it can be a nightmare, but you also get the media coverage, and it's why you specifically pick a week.
I want it to be spicy. Just give me spice.
All right, I'll give you some spicy here.
Okay.
It's time to end this on July 8th. Here's my little speech. It's going to be my little stump speech, okay? I saw we have a local...
filibuster?
No, a local politician just jumped into the District 2 race. I saw that this morning. There have been, when you start to look at Nebraska's schedule and you have discussions on this fine radio station, people go, you can't do it because Nebraska, man, you can never guarantee anything. We need to stop this year, okay? If you believe what you believe, and there's optimism in this team, it's time to stop going, Oh, the schedule. I know the schedule gives you a chance to make some serious noise, but this is Nebraska.
Sure.
F that. Okay. I'm here to say no because I'm tired of that. And if things are going to change, it's going to change this year because the schedule is set up really well for Nebraska to make some serious noise.
It is.
But I'm also here to tell you, and I hate to ruin, and I'm not trying to sell tickets. Okay. The first 8 games don't matter.
Okay.
The first 8 games for the season don't matter. You know why?
Yeah, you're making
Why?
me sad. What's
Because
going on?
there is death taxes, and Matt Rule, before November 1, is going to win at least 5 games.
Oh, there we go.
Now, he might win 6. You might break the schedule down into 3 4-gamers. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. But tell me if I'm wrong. Didn't Nebraska, in year 1 of Matt Rule, go into November at 5-3?
They did.
Then they lost 4 in a row. Didn't last year Nebraska go into November at 5-3?
Yes.
What happened?
They went 1-3.
Do we all agree that the headsets and the helmets are better this year?
Oh my God, yes. The headsets for sure. The helmets overall.
So what would have to happen for Nebraska not to have at least 5 wins in their first 8 games?
They would have
now,
to.
5-3, I think some people would go, whoa, but let's just focus on the wins.
You would have to, if for them not to go 5-3, you would have to lose to Maryland and Northwestern. Because I could see them losing to Cincinnati, Michigan, and Michigan State. So you would then have to either lose to Northwestern or Maryland for them really not to go 5-3.
So we're having a little discussion in our pre-show meeting about the games that Nebraska has to win to exceed expectations. So let's just go with the baseline. Nebraska 7-5. November is the month to remember. I believe that it was Shakespeare that said that.
Or Brando.
Put it on an epitaph.
Tim, not Marlon.
USC, UCLA, bye week, Penn State, Iowa.
Okay.
So let's say you have 5 minimum, probably Nebraska, if they are who we think they are. And remember, they don't play a true road game until the middle of October.
No.
Okay? It's time now to stop going, oh, that's schedule. I know it's easy, but this is Nebraska. You know what? It has set up better for Nebraska than it has a long time, that if you are who you think you are, you take advantage of that. It doesn't work against you. You take advantage of that schedule. So let's say you waltz into November, boop, boop, already bowl eligible. Okay?
Yeah,
you got 5 or 6 wins.
Sure.
So the season comes down to 4 games to exceed expectations and maybe to get you to where you think you are going to go. Because Matt Rule wins 5 before November, right? He wins 5. Look at the home games. There's no Ohio State, Oregon. By the time that you've established your identity, then you go to the Rose Bowl, then you go to State College.
You are who you are when you're in November. But I think November is so important because it leads to a different point here. Nebraska since 2018, straight up as an underdog in games. Can you guess their record as an underdog in games since 2018? They played 38 games.
Not good.
They are 5-33.
Okay.
Since 2018.
So is this a Matt Rule thing or a Nebraska football thing?
They are.
That's where we have to. This is the separation of the. This is separation year. Okay. You know what they have? They call a Saturday at the Masters moving day. This is the year that you move away from being old Nebraska. So that all of those stats that include a 5-year run of the previous head coach, those get thrown out the window and you start anew in 2025. And it's not old Nebraska, it's the new Rule.
This is the check the box here. There are so many trends that have empty boxes that they have not been able to break over the last. I mean, literally, they have not beaten a Power 5 team in week 1 of a season since 2003.
Well, I mean, you just make all the lists. They haven't beaten a ranked team on the road. They haven't beaten a ranked team, period.
Exactly.
Rule hasn't beaten a ranked team. Yes.
There's all of that. And so this is the season where you want to. I'm not expecting them to check all the boxes. For them to check all of the boxes, they would make the playoff, right? But I'm expecting them
That sounds crazy.
to check. I mean, yeah, they check all the boxes. They win week 1. They win on the road against Minnesota. They beat Iowa. They beat a ranked team. Like if you do all of that, you probably only lose 1 game or 2 games, and you're 10-2 with would probably be a pretty notable wins against Michigan and Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
Like they would do that. But even under Matt Rule, this team straight up as an underdog is 2-9. Like they have not been able to do that. In November, they are going to be underdogs. They might be underdogs against USC. They might be underdogs against UCLA. They're probably going to be underdogs.
Whoa. Underdogs against UCLA?
They might be. If UCLA is having a good season,
I might one day weigh 115 pounds and wear a size 26 pants.
If you go ahead,
I mean, if that happens, I'm gonna be worried about
UCLA has a good year and Nebraska is coming off a loss to USC, and they are
is Nebraska having a good year?
No, this Nebraska could be 6-3 or 5-4 going at UCLA. There's a world where they're like plus 2.5.
Oh, definitely.
Plus 3.
Definitely. There
UCLA.
is a floor of potentially 4-8.
I don't know. 4-8. I've seen that. I don't think I disagree with
I think the floor for Nebraska is 500.
I think it's 5-7. I could see a world where it collapses and they lose to Cincinnati and they lose to Michigan and they lose to Michigan State and then they lose to
we have a show for you.
Iowa. Like there is a world where they can, and they've done it before, where they've lost to teams that they should not lose to. Like that's been the main whole crux of this all of Nebraska's struggles over the last 8 years. Isn't really, well, you can't beat the good teams. It's you haven't been able to consistently beat the bad teams. Like their record
or win at home.
Yeah.
And your home schedule creates some serious momentum.
Or take advantage of momentum. Like they haven't been able to do that. I will never forget that 2023.
Well,
Michigan
that's my
game.
hang up. That's been my hang up under Rule and was a big one last year when I said 7-5.
Yeah.
Is how do they deal with success? How do they deal with people patting them on the back? How do they look good one Saturday and then do it again the next Saturday and then do it again the next Saturday? And then all of a sudden it becomes habit. They haven't been able to turn the corner and do that. It's still a little bit of a hang up when I look at this season, but we need to stop that elephant in the room. We need to beat down the elephant, give him some peanuts, let him walk out of the room and stop talking about the elephant in the room and go, you know what? If you're going to do it, this is a schedule to do it. Instead of going, oh, that schedule, that's a schedule that kind of stop being old Nebraska, start being new Nebraska, and start taking advantage of a schedule that's been given to you because next year at this time, we're going to be bitching about how difficult the schedule is.
Well, I think though,
and hopefully saying, well, now they have a team that can navigate it, and it's a schedule that puts you into the playoff if you navigate it the right way. That's for next year.
You talk about we need to eliminate the things that were happening before the coach of Nebraska. This team having 92 freshmen and sophomores?
92 freshmen, redshirt freshmen or sophomores
on this roster plays well into that because I think last season and the last couple of years,
good man.
I mean, there definitely was football PTSD on some with the guys who were playing on the roster last year, and I don't blame them because they had been in so many heartbreaking games and heartbreaking losses that it's almost as if it's hard for them not to think, oh crap, here we go again, when they are playing in these really close games and things are going their way. Now that you have a roster that doesn't have as many of experiences of losing in those heartbreaking fashions, it's almost as if you're not going to have as many guys think, oh crap, here we go, right? You're just going to have a bunch of guys who hopefully play more free and who don't think about those things and don't think about, oh, we haven't been able to close the door in the past. Like starting anew and having a fresh mindset plays so well into this season, I think, despite the fact that you have lost a lot of production from the guys who have left. But I think November, they're more than likely going to be underdogs in three of their 4 games in November. Can you win as an underdog? Can you win a game that you're not supposed to win?
I don't know. What'll be potentially the biggest line that Nebraska would be an underdog in? Could they go to Penn State? I mean, that's tough because it's way out and you don't know how the season's going to unfold. But that would be the initial one where I go, they might be a touchdown 8-point underdog going to State College.
I don't. Yeah, it's so far out. I could see them being a double-digit underdog at State College because I think Penn State could look like an incredible team at that point, depending on what they've done. But to your point, if we just remove the Penn State game, there is not one game on here that I think they could be a double-digit
They're
underdog.
going to be favored in a majority of their games.
I don't.
So it's time to start taking advantage of that, not running away from it and having PTSD. It is like, this is different because everything you're told and you feel is different, right? That this is the time.
I mean, they've approached it differently, and they've just built it differently, and they've built it professionally.
The old Nebraska ends today. The new Nebraska begins on November 1. Sorry for the first 2 months. Find something else to do.
I think
check back in on November 1.
You talk about momentum, and you talk about how does this team deal with success. The first 8 games are so important because we find out if they can deal with momentum.
I'm going to take a nap.
And if they can
I'm going to take a nap.
Success.
I'll be back on the show on November 1.
No.
We'll be like, here we go.
Gary, I can't.
All right, it's a race. It's a race to the end of the month.
You're going to miss a lot.
Hey, what if you did, though? Like, what if you, disappeared and you came back right on November 1?
I mean, I'm kind of close to that.
I'd be a Y-leaved radio vet at that point if you left. Talk about being thrown into the deep end without a life preserver.
Welcome back to Matt on 1620 The Zone.
We just want to let you know Gary's gone until
I've already said it. The first 2 months
on sabbatical.
He's actually
first 2 months might be boring, y'all. They're going to win 5 or 6 games. Let's get into the nitty gritty. Let's get to November.
You can find Gary at Vala's most weekends.
You know how I'm really making happy is the J-Sker because they're like, oh yeah, November basketball and that month. Let's go.
I get a call from somebody. Hey, Matt, we just want to let you know Gary's decided to take a micro retirement.
It's a sabbatical.
He'll be out until November. So good luck. Good luck with football season.
Don't worry. I'm behind you.
All right. We got more on this topic.
We actually have to talk about the most important games. I mean, that's what we
did. They're the last 4 of the season.
And tomorrow, the least important.
You're 4, just that, or just it?
That's it.
So least importance, the previous 8? Tie?
When I get that pocket schedule, I'm cutting off the top of the schedule. I'm just starting with November. Wake me when USC comes to Lincoln to play at 2:30 on CBS.
So you just like November.
So are you saying that
I'm on to you.
It gets a little bit cold.
Are you saying
when he has a birthday month?
Are you saying that wake you up when September ends?
Boom! Bang! But you got to change it. Wake me up when October ends.
Wake me up when they're 4.
You guys realize the day after Halloween, that could be a friggin' zoo in Lincoln for the USC game. I think it's going to be an afternoon game, 2:30 CBS. That's my pick.
Could have World Series that night.
Oh my God! Can you imagine?
You know what I'm getting at.
Can you imagine? Ooh. Can you imagine if we have a Gary and Matt World Series?
Cubs and the Phillies.
Cubs and Astros. November 1st.
I brought this up over the weekend with my wife.
What are you, Nick Grimm? LSU and Arkansas going to play the College World Series championship?
Hell yeah!
You got the I got a Phillies Cubs World Series.
All right, we're off and running on a Tuesday. Sorry if you're going to the Houston Christian game or the Akron game.
Hey,
it doesn't matter.
There are two.
It's a DMer.
There are 2 programs in NCAA 26 that don't have any stars. One of them is Akron.
Get them on the schedule immediately if you need somebody.
Indiana and Akron are going to have like a traditional rivalry for the next.
Houston
10 years.
Christian and Akron played. What would be the spread?
3.5.
Houston Christian
Akron.
minus 3.5.
Oh, they do have Texans.
We're back with more Gary and Matt and Jimmy after this on 1620 The Zone. All right, storms rolled through the area last night. Maybe you are just getting back your power or you're realizing, oh boy, those storms took a toll on my home. And you look up to your roof and you wonder, why is that shingle in the middle of my street? And you're thinking, oh, I got to get this looked at because I do not want any drippage. Only place to go. And I know you're like, oh God, I don't want to deal with a local contractor. I want to stay local, but I don't want to deal with a contractor. Well, you know what? Stay local and go to the best. The MVPs of roofing in Omaha, Moose Roofing. Your initial meeting when Rob and Bob will come out, personable, professional. They'll take time to explain, educate everything that Moose Roofing stands for and that they're seeing with your roof when they get up on it, okay? You'll change your